People believe enslaved colonies collapsed only when European armies failed elsewhere. Men in uniforms patrol plantations, counting bodies as property, enforcing that belief. Daily, white administrators dine nearby.com, certain, signing orders, without looking up. A black driver watches, silent, calculating distances between patrols and cane fields. A plantation manager reads reports. His hand tightens, then orders weapons distributed. Power shifts without explanation. Only movement, glances, and hurried footsteps. What follows is recorded in correspondence, payrolls, and emergency decrees, still preserved. Faces remain unnamed in classrooms, but their decisions remain traceable. A French overseer rides fast, carrying news he does not want believed. His horse sweats as he reaches an office guarded by armed clerks. The clerks lock doors, not asking questions. Already instructed to delay messengers. Accepted history says the revolt was spontaneous, chaotic, unplanned, driven by rage alone. That belief requires ignoring months of meetings, oaths, and coded signals. A black organizer stands in a clearing, counting men by torchlight. Each man steps forward when named. Bring in tools repurposed, faces set, silent. No speeches, only instructions, gestures, assignments, and routes memorized. This is not chaos. It is logistics unfolding under pressure. Plantation houses light the night sky as signals, not targets alone. White families evacuate with documents, silver, and fear, tightly packed. Militia commanders argue over authority while smoke advances faster than orders. A French officer demands reinforcements that do not arrive. Another officer burns files before retreating, choosing which records survive. Institutions begin managing loss rather than preventing it. A black commander appears in captured uniform, inspecting lines, issuing discipline. He enforces restraint where needed, force where required, without announcement. Men obey him because disobedience now carries consequences. European accounts later call him a subordinate, a helper, a coincidence. Contemporary P records list his authority clearly. The contradiction sits in ink, ignored by repetition. France sends commissioners with proclamations folded neatly in pockets. They promise reform while armed escorts scan crowds for reaction. Black leaders listen, exchange looks, then request guarantees in writing. The commissioners hesitate, consulting instructions that restrict their authority. Delay creates space, and space fills with organized resistance. Negotiation becomes leverage when one side controls the ground. A white planter signs an agreement under watchful eyes. Days later, troops voided by force, citing metropolitan orders. Trust collapses, visibly, not rhetorically. As patrols resume harsher routines, a black general records the betrayal carefully. He sends copies through channels Europeans do not monitor. Documentation becomes weaponry without noise. European newspapers describe savagery, omitting uniforms, ranks, and command structures. Readers see disorder, not administration. Policy follows perception, not reality. France is Calates dispatching a massive expeditionary force. Ships arrive heavy with soldiers, cannon, and assumptions. Officers step ashore expecting submission, not coordination. They meet fortified positions held by men who studied their drills. Black troops maneuver, withdraw, regroup, conserving strength deliberately. European commanders misread restraint as weakness. Disease spreads through camps with predictable speed. Medical officers request changes, but logistics ignore them. Bodies are buried quickly, names recorded, then forgotten. A black commander watches French numbers shrink without direct engagement. He adjusts supply routes, denies access, waits. Time becomes an ally, wielded intentionally. French generals argue whether to negotiate or intensify force. Messages cross oceans, delayed, altered, misinterpreted. Local decisions outrun imperial control. One black leader accepts a truce and enters formal talks. He secures recognition, rank, and autonomy on paper. European officers salute him publicly, reluctantly. Later histories call this temporary, strategic, insignificant. Contemporary treaties call it necessary. The erasure begins immediately after the signatures dry. Napoleon Bonaparte reads reports filtered through ministers. He sees losses framed as setbacks, not failures. He authorizes escalation without visiting the terrain. Orders arrive demanding the disarmament of black officers. The message is clear, though phrased administratively. Compliance would mean annihilation. A black general reads the order aloud to his council. Silence follows. then a unanimous refusal expressed through preparation. Weapons are redistributed, positions reinforced. Routes sealed. French troops attempt arrests during a supposed inspection. The attempt fails publicly, humiliating command structures. Authority fractures in front of witnesses. European officers respond by targeting families and civilians. Policies shift toward terror, justified internally as a necessity. Resistance hardens visibly, organization tightening. The conflict is now total, though never described that way officially. Each side understands consequences without declaring them. Documentation continues. Meticulous, intentional. Black leadership fragments strategically, decentralizing command. Capture becomes less valuable. Negotiations harder. Institutions struggle against adaptive human networks. France replaces commanders, expecting results through hierarchy. New generals repeat old assumptions with fresh confidence. The terrain remains unchanged, hostile, and controlled by locales. A black leader is captured under false assurances. He is transported, isolated, erased from immediate command. European records later minimize his removal. His absence does not collapse resistance. It reveals redundancy deliberately into leadership. Control was never singular. Black generals convene, redistribute authority, and continue operations seamlessly. European observers note this with unease. Hierarchy fails to explain resilience. France announces re-enslavement policies elsewhere. The news arrives through sailors, whispered, then confirmed. Any remaining trust dissolves instantly. Orders shift from negotiation to extermination, documented internally. Implementation follows through laws, uniforms, pay, and promotions. Oppression reveals itself as a system, not an accident. Black forces respond by closing ranks, denying quarterly, not celebrated, simply executed as a survival policy. The conflict escalates without speeches. European powers watch closely, quietly adjusting their own colonies. Fear spreads faster than newsprint. Silence becomes policy. By war's later stages, foreign officers defect pragmatically. They follow command structures that function. Allegiance shifts through calculation. Victory approaches without ceremony. Administrations withdraw. Randicords are destroyed selectively. Recognition arrives reluctantly, framed as an anomaly. The new state inherits isolation immediately. Trade is restricted, debts imposed, punishment delayed, but inevitable. Independence triggers institutional retaliation. Textbooks later reduce this to dates and outcomes. Education systems omit names, decisions, and strategies. Media frames disorder, not governance. The revolution survives militarily, then faces erasure administratively. Power reverses on battlefields, then is constrained economically. Consequences extend forward, quietly enforced. The story pauses here, not concluded, only redirected by institutions. Isolation begins immediately, not debated, enforced through ports, tariffs, and silent agreements. Foreign merchants anchor offshore, negotiate cautiously, then withdraw under pressure. Recognition is withheld deliberately, treated as leverage, not principle. Haitian leaders stand in uniform at the empty docks. They issue orders anyway, maintaining discipline without external validation. Governance continues under observation, not acceptance. France refuses recognition while calculating compensation. Former enslavers submit invoices, listing land, people, and lost productivity. Institutions convert violence into accounting. Haitian officials receive the demand formally. They read figures that price generations of forced labor, refusal risks, invasion. Acceptance ensures long-term extraction. European navies appear offshore as reminders. No declarations, only presence cannon visible. Crews at readiness. Power communicates through posture. Haiti signs under duress. Payments begin immediately, draining resources from reconstruction. Independence acquires an interest rate. Banks in Paris profit steadily. The transaction is recorded as a lawful settlement. The origin of the debt is omitted from summaries. Inside IT leaders argue over allocation. Military veterans expect land, security, and stability. Revenue leaves the country before meeting needs. Foreign observers label the state unstable. They cite poverty without citing the cause. Narrative replaces sequence. Former colonial powers circulate reports warning against black sovereignty. Diplomats share these quietly, aligning policy. Recognition remains conditional, delayed, and strategic. The United States watches closely. Southern lawmakers read Haitian correspondence with unease. Silence becomes alignment. American merchants trade unofficially while the government avoids acknowledgement. Profits flow privately. Recognition withheld publicly. Contradiction becomes policy. Haiti builds institutions under constraint. Courts operate, laws are enforced, and officials are appointed. None of this appears in dominant histories. European writers describe chaos, despotism, and inevitability. They cite instability as inherent, not engineered. Repetition hardens opinion. Military leaders age, retire, and die. Their records scatter. Names altered. Roles minimized. Heroism is reframed as brutality. Documents remain accessible, untranslated, and unassigned. Archives hold proof without amplification. Erasure requires neglect, not destruction. In France, the revolution is reframed as a loss to nature. Disease, climate, and distance receive blame. Human agency is deliberate. Napoleon's failure is softened through omission. The only successful slave revolution challenges imperial inevitability. That challenge must be neutralized conceptually. Textbooks compress 14 years into paragraphs. Strategies vanish, decisions blur, leaders disappear. Outcomes survive without process. Haitian children learn fragments of their own history. Foreign curricula excluded almost entirely. Silence compounds across generations. Debt payments continue for decades. Infrastructure stalls. Development redirected. Outrage. Poverty is later cited as proof of incapacity. International institutions formalize distance. Loans replace reparations. Conditioned on compliance. Control evolves without uniforms. When Haiti struggles, history is blamed. When Haiti resists, culture is blamed. Systems remain unnamed. Media coverage focuses on the crises. Never the origin. Images show suffering without explanation. Context is treated as optional. Meanwhile, plantations elsewhere adjust. Slaveholders hardened laws. Fearing replication, the revolution's real impact is acknowledged privately. The Haitian example shapes global policy through avoidance. Now, state wants a precedent normalized. Success becomes dangerous. Centuries later, statues remain absent. Museums omit campaigns, negotiations, and treaties. The revolution survives in margins. Academic specialists know the records. They publish quietly, reach limited audiences. Institutions absorb knowledge without redistribution. Popular history retains the old frame. Chaos, brutality, inevitability. Comfort persists through simplification. The cost of that comfort is measurable. It appears in debt tables, trade exclusions, and media tone. History extends forward materially. Haitian sovereignty exists, constrained, conditional. That power was seized once, then restricted continuously. The reversal was never forgiven. What happened threatened the global order, so it was contained. NARA. Containment proves cheaper than correction. The revolution did not fail. It was punished. Documented. That process continues quietly. Institutions still decide which revolutions count. They decide which victories remain dangerous. This one never stopped being inconvenient. The pressure never lifted. It only changed form.